It'll be 10 years next year for Band of Brothers, and it was such an iconic experience that I didn't realize at the time how extremely well made and how good it was. It just blew me away. The not only the stories, but the emotional acting, the in-depth point of view that everybody got into, the fact that you guys played actual soldiers from World War II. It just blew my mind.
Right. I mean, that's the thing about Band of Brothers. You can have someone who's just seen it recently, 6 months ago or a year ago, and just go, "Oh my God, how did I not see this?" and still fall in love with it. And to be honest, even me, when it's on, it's almost one of them things. When it's on, I have to watch it, and not because I'm in it, mostly because I'm such a fan of the story, and I'm a fan of all the guys, the men that I've worked with on that project. It's sort of like The Godfather. Every time The Godfather's on TV, I'm an Italian American, I have to watch it. You can just be walking by your TV and you can hear that it's on, and then you just have to sit. You have to just sit down and watch it. There's nothing you can do. You drop everything. So it goes up there with like The Godfathers and the Shawshank Redemption, where when they're on, even though I got them all on DVD, I never just plugged them in on DVD. I just sit down and watch it, and when Band comes on, I just watch it, man. I just watch it. Just such a great show, very well done.
How did you get into character for this hero?
Well, as you go through some of the other band guys that you might be interviewing in the future, each guy has their way of going about contacting their guy, whether they were alive and you had to contact the spouse or contact one of their kids or brother or sister. And it's tough to do that because you don't know how they're going to react, because you're talking about 60 years later and you're opening up a lot of old wounds that might have healed. And you don't know if they know what's going on. So you got to approach it. You really got to approach it gingerly. And what I did with Frank was, the good thing about Frank is I heard from Donnie Wahlberg's character, Lipton, because I went after Donnie, because I knew that Lipton and Frank, Lipton and Perconte came in together.
Right.
And I knew that Donnie had contact with Lipton before I had contact with Perconte. So I said, Donnie, I said, do me a favor, next time you talk to Lipton, find out about Frank and where is he and can I talk to him? Is he cool about this and all that? And so Donnie got back to me and said, yeah, I mean, he said he's fine, and here's his number. So I'm like, wow. So here's me back at my flat in England, sweating, and I called him. And he was a prankster. He was a complete prankster, jokester, like, am I going to be famous now? This is, like, he was so excited about everything. And I was like, oh, thank God. And then that was it. We talked all the time. He came out to visit. I went and stayed with him in Chicago a few times, and we've traveled the world on a few tours through Bastogne, Holland, Normandy. We've been to Germany. We've been all over the place, visiting troops and doing signings and stuff. And we've just become really, really close. And he's a very, very, very special man to me. And that's how it happened. I got lucky. You have to remember a lot of the guys couldn't find their guys or find their loved ones, so they had to just, do their best to, to just go off the information of others. And the good thing about the Band of Brothers characters, and I say this all the time, that character, the Band of Brothers men, and I say this all the time, and you'll see in any one of my interviews, is the easiest way to get information about your guy was to ask the guy that was to the left or the right of him, because they would never talk about themselves. I couldn't get anything out of Frank. I had to talk to Lipton or talk to someone else's character, or Malarkey, and just go, hey, tell me about Frank, then they'll tell you about Frank, because if you ask Frank about himself, he's going to start going as one of the other guys. They never really spoke about themselves. They spoke about the other men. So that was a great way of getting information from them. And like I said, I got lucky. A lot of the other guys were opening up a lot of wounds that people have closed. But for the most part, most of them are very generous and very understanding. and they helped us out tremendously, and you know, I thank them all for that, and they know, each and every one of them know who they are.
When we were talking with Scotty Grimes last week or a week ago, 2 weeks ago, I guess, he said that Hanks and Spielberg kind of wanted to go with semi-unknown guys at the time, so they could actually build a bond with the audience, as opposed to saying, "Hey, that's Ross from Friends."
Yeah, well, that's why they're so good at what they do, because they know that. I mean, it's tough to kind of believe that someone that you've seen in so many pictures or movies before, all of a sudden be this hero character when you know he's not. Look, any minute that you can take the audience out of it because someone's going to go, "Oh, you're the kid from that show. Oh, you're the kid from that TV show back then," and I don't want to name names. That's going to take them out of the element of what's going on. Granted, he's still going to look great and do great and be great. He's still going to be into the project, but I think they were really smart and clever in the sense of going to get a bunch of guys who might have looked familiar, you might have seen him, but it wasn't enough that it took you out of the character and you say, "Hey, you were in that funny comedy film that I saw." You were too into the project, and you were too in love with the character that they were portraying at the moment that you know.
Right.